Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at the next book in the Gord the Rogue series, City of Hawks. This is an interesting book. Well, I'll go into it in detail when I get in there. I like it, but I'm going to go into detail what I like and don't like about this novel. And I hesitate to even call it a novel. So, City of Hawks today on page 121. I also want to remind you that there's a Patreon active for page 121. Trying to go ahead and improve the channel a little bit, trying to upgrade some of my technology, even some of my content. So if you can help out, fantastic. Please take a look. So today on page 121, City of Hawks. The next one up in the Gord the Rogue series, City of Hawks by Gary Gygax. This is published in 1987. These books came out in a flurry in the late 80s. This was published by Tri-G Enterprises, New Infinities Productions. This was Gygax's company after he left TSR. This is interesting because a lot of the place names and such were still held by TSR, but they were kind of used through an agreement. Here we get a nice picture of the city of Greyhawk. Better ones have come out since, of course, but it was still kind of interesting to see Gygax's actual interpretation of the city. And what this book does, this is the fifth one that was published, Saga of Old City, Artifact of Evil, Sea of Death, and the short story compilation, Knight Errant, all came before it. This one goes back in time to when Gord is an infant. We actually meet Gord's parents at the beginning of this one, and we find out that a lot of the problems that Gord has growing up were caused by Gord's father's side of the family. We don't find out much about his dad's side of the family early in this book, but we find out that there are relatives that have betrayed him and want to see him, his wife, and his newborn child dead. So to keep his child alive, Gord's dad goes ahead and gives him over to a wizard named Wano in the city of Greyhawk and says, raise my child, you'll be paid well, we'll be back for him soon. Of course, they don't come back. We don't really ever find out exactly what happens to Gord's parents. We don't think they died well. Wano gives it over to Melina, a young woman that he is aware of, to be basically Gord's maid, his protector, his caregiver. And for this, Wano will pay her well, and she'll have a nice lifestyle in which to raise the child. All this goes sideways when evil forces that have allied with Gord's dad's relatives find Melina and the child and try to destroy the child. And we get a moment where Melina's touched by the evil forces and she gets turned from this beautiful young lady into this crazed old hag known as Lena. Gord and she are whisked away by some magic to parts that we don't know. The bad guy forces can't find them. And it turns out that they just get dumped into the slums of Greyhawk. The first half of this book really kind of rewrites Gord's early pages in Saga of Old City, where we find out that Gord, being the smart child that he was, still had help. He was not able to do everything on his own. He had secret helpers in the background. The forces of balance are there all the time, always guarding over him. One of the guards after he's arrested and he's in the Greyhawk guardhouse, one of the guards is an agent of balance, and he gets Gord taken out of the guardhouse and put in with the beggar master for a better chance of survival and training. They don't really do anything to call attention to Gord because they fear the forces that still are looking for Gord would find him that way, but they do help him on the sly. This, for me, took away quite a bit of the fun of Saga of Old City. I enjoyed that book, improbable as it was, that Gord would be this beggar child who was clever enough to survive to adulthood. I liked that better than this retcon. I have a feeling Gary Gygax felt that maybe he had given a little too much credit to Gord as a child, and some people found it a little unbelievable in some of the feedback he got. So he felt the need to go in and pen this and kind of, retcon it. The one good part of the retcon we get is, if you've read Saga of Old City, you know that Gord kills Beggarmaster Theobald by dropping a chest full of treasure onto Theobald, killing him. Knocks him down into a cistern, and he lands somewhere deep in the bowels of the sewers of Greyhawk. In this story, kind of a short story within here, Gord actually makes it his mission to find out where Theobald landed with that treasure box. Gord wants the treasure. So he contrives to find out the layout of the sewers and everything, and then get down there underneath the Beggarmaster's palace to find out where Theobald would have landed. Theobald's evil has manifested into some kind of sewer monster kind of thing, almost a golem type creature that's trying to kill Gord. It's pretty cool. I liked it. The reason I said I hesitate to call this a novel is it's not a novel. It's a series of short stories that are linked together. You don't have beginning and middle end here. We have a lot of different short stories. I don't know why this wasn't just published as a book of short stories. I think it would have worked better. But the Gord's adventure down in the sewers of Greyhawk is pretty good. You get a lot of good detail on the city itself in this book. It's worth reading, if nothing else than that. And then we go a little further on and we find out a little bit more of Gord's relationship with the Cat Lord, who we met at Moonset, Black Cat Comes, and what the deal is with him. But we're not going to get quite that far into this yet. Gord ends up, through things, in the Plane of Shadows. And he has to help the Lord of the Plane defeat an evil creature who is bent on overthrowing the rightful Lord and seeing the Plane of Shadows become this evil, evil place instead of this really bland and boring place that it is. Here's a cover of Gord fighting the creature with his new Sword of Shadows. In this book, we get a great look at the Plane of Shadows. In my opinion, the best look of anything I've ever read dealing with the Plane of Shadows. So if you use the Plane of Shadows, like I do, in your campaign, and you've read about it in the Book of the Planes and different planar sources, this is still a great thing because it spends 6 or 7 chapters in the Plane of Shadows, and we get to see all the Shadow Planes analogs to people and animals and plants. It's just really good reading. It's the best part of this book, in my opinion. I enjoyed the Plane of Shadows aspects of this. The rest of this book is, well, it's the weakest, in my opinion, of the Gord books, simply because it's disjointed. Had this been published as a series of short stories, it would have felt a lot more cohesive. Published as it was as a novel, it doesn't really land. Oh, there's another Spellfire card that I use as a bookmark. So that I've got to knock it a little bit. This book is important to the story because we find out coming into the next book, which is Come Endless Darkness, number 6 in the series, a lot of what happens in this book pertains directly to that, including Gord getting a Sword of Shadow that'll end up becoming half of his planar Sword of Balance core flam. We'll go into that in a future one. And we do meet the Gravestone, the main bad guy for the Come Endless Darkness that's headed our way in the next series. So this book is an absolute must to keep the series going. It's just unfortunate that Gygax felt the need to go ahead and retcon Gord's origin as much as he did in the first half, and then the second half feels like a completely different set of stories. So really, I feel this would have gone better as a knight-errant type of short story read instead of being a, quote, novel, unquote. It is definitely not a novel, at least not how the good sisters taught me a novel is written. There's the back of the book. But it is absolutely worth reading, and it is a lot of fun. You just have to go into this one knowing that this is definitely not a novel in the traditional sense. It's really linked novellas with some short stories in there. That's really about all I can say about it. I like it. It's a must-read for the Gord the Rogue series, and there's plenty of Greyhawk goodness in here that would absolutely make me want to read this again anyway. I'm just a little disappointed that it wasn't a true novel. So that's it. That's all I've got to say. I feel this is the weakest of the Gord the Rogue series, but still very worth reading, and especially the section on Plane of Shadows. As I said, that's several chapters. You get a great feel for Plane of Shadows. Shortly after I read this novel, I ran a series of adventures on the Plane of Shadows, and my players are no strangers to the Plane of Shadows. They've been there many times. So for that alone, this novel is worth it. So City of Hawks by Gary Gygax. Gord the Rogue, absolutely worth reading. Just kind of prepare yourself. It's more vignettes than it is a novel. So that's it for today from page 121. I hope you like what you heard and saw. I'll be featuring the next Gord the book in the next week or two. If you like what you heard and saw, please like and subscribe. If you can help out with the Patreon, that'd be great. And that's all I've got to say. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on page 121.